The penthouse of Sterling Tower in Manhattan was a monument to everything I had achieved. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the entire eastern wall, offering a panoramic view of the New York City skyline that I had conquered through sheer force of will and a willingness to destroy anyone who stood in my way. The Italian marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of custom-designed chandeliers that had cost more than most people's homes. The walls were adorned with original Basquiats and Warhols that I had purchased at auctions where I had outbid tech moguls and Middle Eastern royalty. Julian Sterling, the self-made hedge fund billionaire who had risen from a trailer park in Arkansas to the pinnacle of Wall Street, stood at the center of my empire, wearing a chiton suit that cost more than a luxury car, and I felt nothing but contempt for the woman sitting on the couch in the corner. My wife, Charlotte, was reading a book. She was always reading or writing in her journal or doing research or doing something mundane and academic that reminded me of where she came from. She was a librarian at the New York Public Library, the daughter of a high school teacher and a nurse, a woman who had grown up in a modest home in Ohio. My board of directors had insisted on this marriage 8 years ago as a condition of their investment. They wanted someone stable and grounded to balance my erratic nature. I had agreed, but I had resented it every single day. She was a constant reminder that I had sold part of my soul to build my company. Charlotte was beautiful in a quiet, unassuming way. Her auburn hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. Her green eyes were warm and intelligent. But she wore no makeup, no designer labels, no expensive jewelry. She was content to exist in the background, to be a quiet, supportive wife who never made waves. I despised her for it. She had no ambition, no drive, no desire to be anything other than a librarian. She was the anchor that was holding me back, a reminder of my compromises. I had been seeing someone else for 3 years. Penelope Ashford, a glamorous socialite and Wall Street journalist, was everything Charlotte wasn't. She was sharp, ruthless, and exquisitely beautiful. She wore designer gowns like they were pajamas and had insider access to every major financial deal. She was also the woman who had been feeding me gossip about my rivals, helping me position myself as the king of hedge funds. Tonight, I was going to end it and I was going to divorce Charlotte and marry Penelope. I had already drafted the papers that I had already transferred our joint assets into my name. Charlotte would walk away with nothing but the clothes on her back. IT was the least she deserved for being such a pathetic excuse for a wife. I walked toward the living room, my footsteps echoing against the marble floor. Charlotte looked up from her book, her expression calm, serene, infuriating. "Julian, dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. I made your favorite, filet mignon with truffle butter." "I'm not hungry," I said coldly. "Put the book down. We need to talk." She closed the book obediently, as she always did. I stood over her, looking down with all the contempt I could muster. "Charlotte, this marriage has been a mistake," I said. "I never wanted to marry you to you're a burden, a liability, a constant reminder of my biggest failure. I've met someone else, someone who actually belongs in my world, and I'm filing for divorce. You have 72 hours to pack your things and leave. I've already had the lawyers prepare the papers. Sign them, and you can go quietly." Charlotte stared at me. Her expression was unreadable. No tears, no shock, just a strange, unsettling calm. "Julian," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "Do you know why the board insisted on me? Do you know why I was chosen for this marriage?" "Because you were cheap and malleable," I said dismissively. "You were a way to make the investors feel like I was grounded. You were nothing more than a prop." Charlotte nodded slowly. She reached into her bag and pulled out a simple leather-bound notebook, something I had never seen before. She placed it on the coffee table in front of her. "Julian," she said, "I'm not just a librarian. And my mother was Dr. Evelyn Hart, the mathematician who developed the predictive algorithms that power the global financial system. The algorithms that your hedge fund, and every other hedge fund on Wall Street, relies on to make billions. My mother worked in secret under a pseudonym because she was afraid of what would happen if her research fell into the wrong hands. She died 5 years ago, leaving everything to me. Her research notebooks, her formulas, her algorithms. They are worth over $40 billion, and they belong to me. My blood turned to ice as I stared at her, my mind reeling. The predictive algorithms were the backbone of modern finance. They were the reason hedge funds like mine existed, the reason we could predict market movements with uncanny accuracy, that if her mother had developed them. That's impossible, I said. Your mother was a librarian. You told me she was a librarian. Librarian was her cover, Charlotte said calmly. She was one of the greatest mathematical minds of the 20th century. She worked for the government, for private corporations, for anyone who could pay her fee, but she never sold the core algorithm. She kept it for herself, and she passed it on to me. I have the original research notebooks, that I have the patents, that I have everything. She stood up. Her posture was different now, confident, commanding. The woman I had dismissed as a simple librarian suddenly seemed like the genius she should have been. I have the divorce papers here, she said, pulling a thick folder from her bag. I've already had my lawyers draft them. You will receive no settlement. You will receive no alimony. You will vacate this penthouse by midnight tonight, and you will never contact me again. If you try to fight me, I will sell the algorithms to your competitors, and I will give them to the government. I will destroy you. Julian, I will make sure you never work in finance again. I grabbed the papers. My hands were trembling. I scanned them, searching for a loophole, a mistake, anything. But the documents were ironclad. Charlotte, please, I said, my voice cracking. This is insane. Did I didn't know who your mother was? Did I made a mistake? I was a fool. Please, give me another chance and I'll make it up to you. I'll be a better husband, She cut me off with a dismissive wave. You had 8 years to be a better husband. Julian, 8 years to see me, to appreciate me, to love me. You chose to ignore me. You chose to belittle me. You chose to treat me like a servant. And now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. I don't need your apologies. I don't need your love. I don't need anything from you. I'm free. And you are destroyed. She walked to the door. She didn't look back. You have until midnight, Julian. And if you're not gone by then, my lawyers will have you escorted out in handcuffs. The door closed behind her. I stood in the penthouse that I had built, feeling the walls closing in around me. I had lost everything. My wife, my empire, my future. All of it gone in an instant. The weeks that followed were a descent into hell. The press had a field day. Hedge fund billionaire loses everything. Julian Sterling's humiliation. Charlotte Hart reveals secret fortune. My reputation was shredded. MY friends abandoned me. Penelope Ashford, my beloved mistress, the woman I had destroyed my marriage for, dropped me the moment she realized I had no money. She was already dating a tech CEO, that I was left with nothing. Without the algorithms, my hedge fund was a shell. The investors panicked. The board fired me. The valuation plummeted. The lawsuits started piling up. I was sued by shareholders, by business partners, by everyone I had ever wronged. I spent my life savings on legal fees, but it wasn't enough. I declared bankruptcy. I lost everything. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in a rundown part of the Bronx. I couldn't afford my old lifestyle. Couldn't even afford a car. I started looking for work, but no one would hire me. My reputation was destroyed, that I was a pariah, a laughingstock. Months passed. I was forced to take a job as a janitor at the New York Public Library, the very institution where my ex-wife was a celebrated librarian. I cleaned floors, emptied trash cans, scrubbed bathrooms. I looked in the mirror every morning and saw a hollow shell of a man, a shadow of my former self. But the worst part was seeing Charlotte. She was everywhere, on magazine covers, on television, on billboards. She had sold the algorithms to a consortium of tech companies and had become one of the richest women in the world. She had started a foundation, a scholarship program, a research institute. She was using her fortune to make the world a better place. She was happy, radiant, thriving. She had everything I had thrown away. One night, I was cleaning the main reading room of the library when I saw her. She was giving a lecture to a group of students, her voice steady and confident. She was brilliant, engaging, inspiring. Her students adored her. She was in her element. I stood in the back, hidden in the shadows, holding my mop. I watched her command the room, and I remembered the way I had dismissed her, belittled her, treated her like she was nothing. I remembered the day I had thrown her out of our penthouse, thinking she was useless. The tears started streaming down my face. I had been so blind, so arrogant, so stupid. I had been given the greatest gift in the world, a woman who was brilliant, kind, and loyal, and I had thrown her away. Years passed. I remained a janitor, stuck in a dead-end life. I never recovered. I never remarried. I spent my nights replaying every moment of my marriage, every cruel word, every dismissive glance. I thought about Charlotte's smile, her kindness, her unwavering loyalty, and I realized that I had been the villain all along, that I had been given the greatest gift in the world, and I had thrown it away. One day, I was cleaning the rare book section of the library when I saw a familiar face on the television mounted in the corner. It was Charlotte, being interviewed about her latest philanthropic project, a global initiative to fund math education in underserved communities. She was using her fortune to change the world. She was happy. She had found her purpose. And I was dusting shelves for minimum wage. I sank to my knees, sobbing. The dust rag clattered to the floor. I felt the weight of my mistakes crushing me. I had been such a fool, such an arrogant, entitled fool, and there was no going back. The final confrontation came on a cold winter evening. I was sitting on a bench outside the library, eating a cheap sandwich, when Charlotte walked past. She was with her new husband, a kind, distinguished professor who clearly adored her. She was laughing at something he had said. She was radiant, happy, free. She didn't notice me. She walked right past, her arm linked with his, her laughter echoing in the evening air. "Charlotte," I called out. My voice was cracked, desperate. She stopped. She turned. She looked at me with those green eyes, and there was no warmth in them now. Just a quiet, final emptiness. "Julian," she said, "it's been a long time." "I know," I said. "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was a fool. I was arrogant. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. Please, can we talk? I'm begging you." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "Julian," she said, "you made your choice. You chose greed over loyalty. You chose ambition over love. You chose a woman who would never have loved you over a woman who would have given you everything. You don't get to come back now. Begging for crumbs? Dear cautionary tale, a lesson for other men who think they can treat women like stepping stones. Goodbye, Julian." She turned and walked away, and I called after her. But she didn't look back. That I sat on the bench, alone, the tears streaming down my face. I had lost everything. MY company, MY money, MY reputation, MY dignity. And the only woman who had ever truly loved me. I closed my eyes. The cold was settling into my bones. I felt the darkness closing in, a permanent chill that would never leave. I was dying. I could feel it. And in that final moment, I realized that the greatest tragedy wasn't losing my empire, that IT wasn't losing my money, that IT wasn't even losing my reputation. The greatest tragedy was losing the one person who had ever truly seen me, and not realizing it until it was far too late. I whispered her name, Charlotte. But the only answer was the wind.